Right, so this is about crafting compelling brands. Just a really quick intro from me because I want to hear from the panelists, not listen to me. So just why am I here? Why am I on this brand and marketing panel? Well, I started with Adventure 4 years ago. I didn't know what direction I wanted to be in, but I didn't want to work for big brand agencies in London or Leeds anymore, and I wanted to create my own business. So Adventure gave me the confidence because creatives, believe it or not, we seem all showy, but sometimes we really like confidence, to create my own creative collective. So it's a totally different business model. I work with around 15 small businesses in the Yorkshire area. We all come together like the A-Team, which is showing my age. To work on really large brands like Ocean Spray Europe are one of our big brands, to small challenger brands in FMCG and tech. We are not just all females, although I have to point out that only 15% of creative directors in the UK to own their own business are female. But I'm very inclusive. So just to say that this is why I'm here, and I'm really proud to introduce my panel, and we've got some great questions. So rather than everybody give an intro, we're just going to get straight stuck in with the questions. I want to leave time for Q&A. So if you've got any burning questions, write them down, keep them in your mind, and then throw them out at the end. Okay. So my first question is to Lisa. And it's all about the power of storytelling in branding and how to build brand loyalty and trust. So Lisa's going to give you a bit of intro into her business and how she's positioned her brand. We talk about brands. Brands aren't logos. The logo, the iceberg, if you think of an analogy of an iceberg, the logo's the top of it. There's a massive amount underneath the water, even with global warming. So the fact that how you position your brand, reach your customer, and what is the story that you want your customer to know, and how do you stay relevant? Because let's face it, it's a really busy world out there. So Lisa, over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Lisa. I'm the co-founder of The Biscuitery. We make artisan, personalized and branded biscuits for corporate events and special occasions. In answer to the first question, if you'd asked me this when we started, I wouldn't have had an answer. I think it's a journey to find out what you stand for, essentially, what you want your brand to stand for. A big pivotal moment for us was when we did a rebrand, because we had outgrown our homemade brand. We were literally a home bakery, one of those traditional kitchen table startups, baked after our kids had gone to bed, worked in the day job. And just baked at night. And then when we had cobbled up enough money to do a rebrand, we worked with an agency, and it was like therapy for a business. So we went through everything that mattered to us and distilled our brand values from that. And it became clear that we do biscuits, and we only do biscuits. So we became The Biscuitery, and our values very much resonate with what we are as people. And I think that's really important. I think personally, you can only build a brand sustainably if it resonates with who you are, because otherwise you're telling a story that you don't believe in, and at some point you get bored of that. Whereas for us, it was very much a family-friendly brand. Most of us work part-time around their childcare arrangements, so one of the reasons why we started the business. So we wanted to extend that to our team, and also not be, secretive around that. So our clients, we want them to know that this is what we stand for: quality, sustainability, all those things that matter to me personally and to my co-founder. We integrated into the brand. So I'd say that part of telling your story is really important, that it is a part of you in a way. And then I'd say, and we've all heard it a million times, but it's true that people buy from people. So at a time where we didn't have a huge, shiny brand, I think what made people buy from us was our story, the fact that we were two mums baking from home, just making really delicious biscuits, when normally branded biscuits end up in the bin because they're just not very nice. So I think telling your story, even if you think, oh, well, is that so exciting? Other people are going to say, oh, wow, that's such a lovely backstory. And so embrace that. Shout about who you are. And you can decide how much you want to share. It's not about oversharing stuff. You don't have to talk about your family about maybe your mental health, or maybe you want to talk about your business journey and your challenges, but not about other aspects, financial aspects. So you decide what it is. But I encourage everyone to not be shy about sharing who they are behind the brand.
Great, thank you for that. I think that's authenticity is really important, and I think people think that their stories might be a bit boring. Who the hell wants to hear about it? But I think just being your authentic, true self is really important as you grow as a business, isn't it? Cool. So, right, my next victim is, I think I'm going to go to Zubair. Question for Zubair. How did your business develop a strong and memorable brand? And can you tell everybody what it is and a bit about yourself and how you developed that brand?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Zubair Rasul. I am the CEO of Whirly. Whirly was started back in 2018, and I came into the company probably around 4 years after that in 2022. It's not just about the idea. I think it's very important to understand that customers are unfortunately quite fickle these days. So they will look at all the details. They'll look at your reviews. They'll look at how your branding is. And you must, in my opinion, really understand your customer and look at different elements and how you're going to address them. I'll be very, very quick. So just 3 outputs that we got from that. So what we were doing was essentially ensuring that we answered those questions. So we've focused a lot on innovation. So, we're looking at CO2 tracking for our products. And also we're looking at essentially creating a marketplace to allow customers to sell toys back to us, which is, not out there at the moment. So I would say really, study your target audience and try and answer those questions and really keep a pulse on it. So don't just do it once, regularly go back to them and see what you can do in terms of being more innovative and basically, ensuring that what you're doing helps them at the end of the day, because that's what you're there to do.
That's a great answer, Zubair. So now that nicely leads on to Josh, who has slides, but only 3 of them. This is about, so if you find your customer, it's really important to have the insight, because you need to walk in the customer's shoes, because you can make all the assumptions in the world, but until you start to talk to people, you'll never know whether your product is even needed. So having that customer insight is super important. And Josh is going to talk to us about the best way to find your audience, aren't you? And the channels.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk sort of specifically about content marketing. So I've got 3 slides to show you. I specifically, we make content on YouTube for businesses. I imagine everybody out there is small business owners looking like, how do we make content that's going to stand out online? The reality of it is, no one really gives a shit about your story at the start. So you need to give them information that you basically make the information for them so that they can gain something from it. They don't care what you've had for your breakfast or if you're going to lunch for a networking meeting or all. Like, no one really gives 2 shits about it. We need to give them as much information that's educational as possible so then you can sell off the back of it. So one of my clients is a grey market Rolex dealer, super niche. If you know anything about watches and cars, like supercars, you've got to get on a list to try and buy them, and then they're worth more when you try and sell them on. Watches were the same, especially through COVID. So I approached a guy called Charlie Walker, who owns the luxury watch company in Skipton. One-man band. He was selling about 13 watches a month at the time. Wanted to get into content marketing to sort of spread the word. Obviously, at the time and still now, people wanted to find out about the watch industry. Is this Rolex genuine? What am I looking for? What's a good watch? What's a bad watch? What's it going to be worth? Are the gold models worth more than the stainless steel models? So we branded him as the Honest Watch Dealer. So 2 years later, we've got the Honest Watch Dealer YouTube channel at 66,000 subscribers. Now, if you go on that channel, all you're going to find is no one really is that asked about Charlie. They definitely wasn't at the beginning, though. They're just trying to learn about how can I buy a watch and make money from it, or buy a watch and get it for a good price, and what does a good price look like? Because the watch market moves like the stock market, and the watches are worth different prices every day. So we made the Honest Watch Dealer channel. He started investing in content marketing with us. We specifically went down the YouTube route, and this is the back-end analytics. So you see where the first spike is on stage, at the top there, that's 2 years ago. So in 2 years, he's done 16 million views, and he's got 840,000 watch hours. So he's obviously invested us in content marketing. We record every 3 weeks. We put a video out every weekend so everyone can learn about the watch market. But in ad revenue, he's paid him back 40 grand in the last 2 years. So there is a way for you to leverage content as well as just to boost the business, but you can earn money back. So his business has now quadrupled in size. He's maintained his margin. He's made a fortune. But it's nice that he's got money back from YouTube as well. Obviously, then you could probably 10x that number as well if you started doing, sponsorship deals and stuff like that. But again, if you're a business owner, just leverage content to build your business. Don't try flogging Surfshark ads in the middle of, your business content that's trying to educate people. That's this month's analytics. So again, he's at nearly 6,000 subscribers. He's going to make 2,700 quid this month, and he's averaging 800,000 views. So that's a lot of people. If you're trying to just sell, if you've only got, obviously every business is different. I only need about 5 clients to sustain my business. So pick some content marketing that works within your niche. Educate an audience first. Eventually they'll start to care about you and you'll be able to grow it. But educate first, get in quick, get the information out there. Don't waffle on or move on.
Thanks, Josh. And lastly, but not leastly, is Amy. And Amy's got a great brand she's going to just sort of mention. But the question is about understanding the growth demand for ethical and more sustainable products and tapping into that kind of almost that mindset of mental well-being. So brand isn't necessarily about a kind of a consumer product. It can really be about an emotional response to things as well. So, Amy, would you like to take it away?
Yeah, thank you, Helen. Hi, everybody. My name's Amy. I am the founder of Calm. We're a luxury fragrance and wellbeing brand based in Leeds. We were a lockdown distraction that got a little bit out of hand. And we now supply about 100 stockists around the UK and ship globally. And we've just opened our own very first retail store, actually, off the back of the BEF loan that we mentioned before.
Because obviously your range is quite big and it's candles, there's lots of different elements to it, but it all ladders up to this idea of mental well-being and a good sort of healthy relationship.
Oh, yes, yeah. Just ethical, environmental, all the buzzwords that get chucked around that people aspire to be, that want to be because they feel they need to be relevant. And I think the notes that were given to me beforehand were to what advice could I give to people who are looking to embody those values or try and grow their business based off those kind of points. My one standout piece of advice is just that you need to embody them yourself before you do anything else. You need to work out what your vision and mission and values are as part of your business and your personal brand, if it's your own business. And the rest becomes quite easy. So the thing I've taken from all the speakers today, actually, what everybody has mentioned is the advice that I share would align myself with, which is just self-confidence in your own brand values. And if you believe in them and share them, people will believe in them back and believe in you, and your business will grow. If you try to pretend and greenwash or, try and look, how do we look green, look clean, rather than being green or being clean. It's obvious. So yeah, just confidence and self-belief.
Great, thanks, Amy. Kate, is it time for Q&A?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Anything anybody wants to know? The one thing I've noticed. Go for it.
Hello. Michael from TY Property Developments. We've got a fantastic social media brand, Proper Yorkshire Builder. My question is to you, Josh. We're on Instagram at the minute, massive following. We're wanting to diversify that out, move it onto the likes of YouTube. Going off of what you said, the Honest Watch dealer, what was his investment in that to get it from ground level to up now for 66,000?
Like from a monetary standpoint, like how much did it cost?
Yeah.
I think when we first started making content, we've been making weekly content for him since 2 years ago. I think we were initially in the region of sort of $3,000 to $4,000 a month investment on that. And obviously that's like, you can scale up and down the scale on that, whether you got a local videographer producing for you, you can pay that for a consultant just to start help you with like the scripting and the planning and the strategy of it, or you can pay to get a team to come in and do it. You know, in that example there, I bet in the last 2 years, he's invested close to 150, 200 grand, because we've done weekly content, you know, short form content. We've done documentary series on his to show behind the scenes, like Netflix style. So obviously it's a sliding scale, but that's, I'd say if you to get somebody worth the salt that's going to produce quality content from an agency, you're going to be in the thousands. Not to deter anybody that's like just starting out, because like in the building trade, like, or anything like that, look at self-shooting. There's so much information on YouTube for you to learn how to, you know, compose a story, start to shoot on your phone, edit using iMovie, then, you know, work your way up to sort of Final Cuts or whatever. The information's there to do it, but if your business can just outsource immediately, like if your business can afford it, start outsourcing and you'll reap the rewards. Exactly. So that's your two options really.
Wicked, mate. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Brilliant. One of the things that I've noticed everybody talk about today, and Lisa, you actually mentioned it when you were talking about your rebrand, was really focusing in on a particular service or product that you deliver. So for you guys, that was the biscuits, and you decided that you were going to just hone in on that. So how valuable was it to niche?
I think it made all the difference to us, because when we first started, we were a market stall and sold biscuits and cakes and pies and everything. And it was out of desperation because of the limited time we had to give our business. It was a hobby, really, that we said the biscuits make so much more sense because they have a longer shelf life, they take less space, they bake quicker, we can personalize them, we can ship them in the post. So sometimes your perceived disadvantages are actually your superpower. So for us, niching down made all the difference in terms of simplifying our business, but also in terms of then maximizing the digital marketing. So then because that was the world we were coming from, my co-founder and I, so we could then go onto Google and optimize our website for those key terms, which became branded biscuits, personalized biscuits. Whereas if we had 100 products, that would have been so much more difficult. So I'd say, especially if you're a small business with a limited budget, maybe you're bootstrapping, then niching down could be just the best thing for you.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you so much to the panel. That was absolutely great. And we've got our final session now.